1. The alien perspective on humanity's uniqueness. The story opens with Kael Tharix, a newly recruited Yl'vathian prison guard, stepping off a dropship onto Kestrel 7, a hostile death world known for its impossibly high gravity, toxic atmosphere, and ceaseless storms. Kestrel 7 is not just a prison. It's a fortress designed to contain the galaxy's most lethal Deathworlders, beings whose evolutionary paths made them nearly indestructible in combat and unyielding in spirit. Kael is immediately struck by the oppressive environment. His body, adapted for a low-gravity homeworld, struggles to adjust to the crushing force, and his 4 lungs wheeze against the acrid air. Around him, other non-human guards shuffle uncomfortably, their anxiety mirrored in their wary glances toward the towering prison gates. In sharp contrast, the humans on the team appear utterly unbothered. One human in particular, Sergeant Bishop, casually leans against the ship's hull, arms crossed, as if Kestrel 7 were no more than a mild inconvenience. His grin, full of unshaken confidence, unsettles Kael. Are all humans this unaffected by Deathworld conditions? Kael asks hesitantly, his voice clicking in the way Yl'vathians express nervousness. Bishop chuckles, a deep, rich sound that seems inappropriate for the desolation surrounding them. Deathworld? Kid, this is just another Tuesday for us. Kael doesn't respond, but the seed of curiosity takes root. As they walk toward the facility, his gaze shifts to the other humans. Their movements are fluid and efficient, their postures radiating a kind of relaxed vigilance that Kael doesn't understand. Every step they take exudes an aura of calm control, an unspoken statement that they're prepared for anything. Inside the prison, the unease deepens. The corridors reverberate with the growls, roars, and alien screeches of the inmates. Kael's scales prickle as he catches sight of Rakzal, a colossal creature whose bone-plated form glows faintly with bioluminescence. A single swing of Rakzal's massive arms could snap Kael in two. Next is Fenrix, an amorphous predator with cerastic venom once melted the shields of a galactic coalition warship. Yet, when Bishop strides through the cell block, the chaos subsides. Rakzal lowers his predatory gaze. Fenrix retracts his lethal appendages, shrinking back into the shadows. Even the atmosphere itself seems to shift, growing heavier with the weight of silent deference. Kael feels his confusion deepen. These inmates are apex predators from some of the deadliest worlds in the galaxy. They fear nothing. Or so he thought. But here they are, cowed by creatures who don't even carry visible weapons. "Do they fear you?" Kael whispers to Bishop as they pass through the final checkpoint. Bishop glances at him, his smile unchanged but his tone suddenly serious. "They don't fear us, rookie. They know what we are. There's a difference." Kael's mind races as he considers the implications. He had always been taught that Deathworlders were the pinnacle of evolution, but here, in the heart of this prison, it's the humans who hold the power. As they move deeper into the facility, Kael feels a strange mix of unease and awe. Finally, as they approach the mess hall, Bishop stops and looks at Kael. His grin widens, and his voice carries a note of challenge. "Stick around long enough, rookie, and you'll see. There's a reason humans run places like this. And you'll either understand it, or you won't survive it." The words linger in Kael's mind, both a warning and a promise. 2. The Riot, humanity's ruthless efficiency in action. The riot began with a whisper, a coordinated series of minor malfunctions and distractions designed to stretch the prison systems to their limits. Automated gates jammed open, cell force fields flickered, and surveillance drones lost signal one by one. At first, Kael dismissed it as an unfortunate glitch, but his heart sank when the alarms blared in unison and the containment grid went offline. From every corner of the prison, chaos erupted. Deathworlder inmates surged into the hallways, their raw strength and aggression overwhelming the alien guards stationed at critical points. Kael's forearms fumbled with his plasma rifle as he watched a fellow guard, a towering Yl'vathian with hardened exoskeleton plating, get thrown like a ragdoll by Raxel, the bone-armored warlord. "Ah, hold your position!" barked one of the senior alien officers, but the panic was palpable. Non-human guards scrambled to retreat, their reliance on advanced technology failing them in the face of such primal, relentless power. Kael's breath came in ragged gasps as he fell into formation with the humans. He glanced at Sergeant Bishop, expecting to see fear or uncertainty. Instead, he saw focus, razor-sharp and cold. Bishop's eyes scanned the chaos, calculating, as if piecing together a puzzle no one else could see. "What do we do?" Kael shouted over the cacophony. Bishop didn't answer immediately. He simply raised a hand, signaling his team. The humans sprang into action with a precision Kael had never seen before. No panic, no hesitation. "Rookie," Bishop finally said, his voice unnervingly calm. "You cover our 6. Stay close, and don't shoot unless I tell you." Before Kael could respond, Bishop charged forward, wielding nothing but a stun baton. What followed was a display of ruthless efficiency that Kael could only describe as terrifyingly surgical. Raxel roared and lunged at Bishop, his massive arms swinging with enough force to shatter Durasteel. But Bishop ducked under the blow with impossible speed, driving his baton into a nerve cluster beneath the warlord's bony plates. Raxel collapsed, his body convulsing as the stun baton delivered an incapacitating charge. Another human took on Fenrix, dodging the creature's venomous tentacles with uncanny precision. Fenrix hissed, its amorphous form coiling and uncoiling in frustration. But the human closed the distance and delivered a well-placed strike to what Kael could only assume was its central nervous system. The predator fell, twitching. Kael stood frozen, his mind struggling to process what he was witnessing. The humans didn't rely on superior firepower or advanced gadgets. They used their surroundings, their instincts, and a level of aggression that bordered on feral. "Move, rookie." Bishop's voice snapped Kael out of his trance. He stumbled forward, following the humans as they systematically reclaimed control of the prison. The riot raged on for what felt like hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. One by one, the Deathworlder inmates were subdued, their brute strength and cunning no match for the humans' relentless determination. When the dust finally settled, the once chaotic hallways were littered with unconscious prisoners. The human guards, bloodied but unbroken, stood tall, their presence commanding an almost eerie silence. Kael leaned against a wall, his 4 lungs heaving as he tried to catch his breath. His scales were slick with sweat, and his hands trembled from the adrenaline crash. "How?" he croaked, turning to Bishop. "How did you do that? They outnumbered us 100 to 1. Bishop wiped a streak of blood from his face, his expression as calm as it had been before the riot. "Simple. They relied on fear and chaos. We rely on control and strategy." Kael shook his head, but they were stronger, faster. "Doesn't matter," Bishop interrupted. "Strength and speed mean nothing if you can't outthink your opponent. That's the difference between them and us." Kael stared at the defeated prisoners, now being dragged back to their cells. He thought about the humans' precision, their unshakable focus, and their willingness to act with a level of brutality that other species shied away from. "You don't just fight to win," Kael said slowly, realization dawning on him. "You fight to end it, decisively." Bishop nodded, his grin returning. "Exactly, and that's why we're here. Deathworlders don't respect hesitation. They respect power, control, and the will to use both. That's what keeps this place running." As the prisoners were secured, the alarms silenced, and order restored, Kael couldn't shake the lingering thought. Humans weren't just survivors. They were predators, apex ones, designed by evolution to dominate. And on Kestrel 7, surrounded by the galaxy's deadliest beings, that made them the ultimate enforcers. Three, humans as predators. The philosophy behind their role. After the riot was subdued and the Deathworlder prisoners were once again secured in their cells, Kael found himself restless. His scaled hands fidgeted as he replayed the chaotic events in his mind. The precision, the ruthlessness, the terrifying efficiency of the humans he fought alongside. Despite their victory, Kael felt uneasy, as though he had glimpsed a side of humanity that most of the galaxy refused to acknowledge. Later that evening, he sought out Sergeant Bishop, who was sitting alone in the mess hall nursing a cup of Earth's infamous stimulant drink. Coffee, Kael thought it was called. Bishop looked up as Kael approached, raising an eyebrow. "You look like you've got questions," Bishop said, leaning back in his chair. Kael sat across from him, his movements hesitant. I don't understand. What I saw out there, what you and the others did, how is it possible? You're Deathworlders, yes, but so are they." Bishop smirked and took a long sip of his coffee before responding. "Deathworlder doesn't mean the same thing for us as it does for them. Most Deathworlders are shaped by their environments. They adapt, grow tougher, faster, stronger to survive. Humans, we didn't just adapt, we fought back. We didn't let our world dictate the rules. We made our own." Kael frowned, his curiosity deepening. "What do you mean?" Bishop leaned forward, his expression darkening. "Earth's not just a death world. It's a crucible. Everything on our planet, from the weather to the predators, to our own damn neighbors, was designed to kill us. And yet, we're still here. Not because we're the strongest or the fastest, but because we're the smartest. And when smarts weren't enough, we became ruthless." Kael's scales rippled, a Yl'vathian expression of discomfort. "Ruthless? That sounds ugly," Bishop offered, grinning. "You're not wrong, but survival isn't pretty. On Earth, hesitation gets you killed. Mercy is a luxury we couldn't afford for most of our history. That's why, when we fight, we don't fight fair. We fight to win." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Kael thought back to the riot, to the way Bishop and the other humans had turned the tide. Their moves weren't elegant or flashy, but they were devastatingly effective. Every strike was calculated, every decision made with ruthless pragmatism. "It's more than just survival, though," Bishop continued, his tone softening slightly. "It's about control. Deathworlders, like Raxal and Phoenix, they're all instinct, all raw power. That works when they're the apex predator on their home turf, but against us, they don't stand a chance. Humans don't just survive chaos. We thrive in it. We turn it into a weapon. Kael's mind raced as he tried to process what Bishop was saying. But doesn't that make you dangerous? To everyone? Bishop chuckled, a low, almost predatory sound. Oh, absolutely. The Galactic Council knows it too. That's why they keep us in places like this, because they know we're the only ones who can handle monsters like Raxol and Fenrix. We don't flinch. We don't hesitate. And we don't stop until the job's done. Kael sat back, his scaled hands clasped together. For so long he had viewed humans as just another species of Deathworlders, their reputation exaggerated by galactic gossip. But now he realized the truth. Humans weren't just survivors of a hostile world. They were the architects of their own dominance, shaped not by fear, but by an unyielding drive to conquer. Is that why they fear you? Kael asked quietly. Because you're not like the rest of us? Bishop's grin returned, sharp and wolfish. They don't fear us, rookie. They fear what we represent. That no matter how dangerous you think you are, there's always someone out there willing to go further. And when it comes to keeping order in a place like this, he gestured around the mess hall, and there's someone is us. Kael shivered involuntarily, the weight of Bishop's words settling over him like a physical force. He suddenly understood why the Galactic Council insisted on human guards for Deathworlder prisons. It wasn't just about their strength or resilience. It was about their mindset, their ability to embrace the darkness without losing control. As Bishop stood and walked away, leaving Kael alone with his thoughts, the Yl'vathian realized something else. It wasn't just the prisoners who feared the humans. Somewhere deep down, Kael feared them too. But more than fear, he felt a growing respect, a grudging acknowledgement that in a galaxy full of monsters, the most dangerous beings weren't the ones locked in cells. They were the ones holding the keys. Four, Kael's transformation and final revelation. Weeks passed since the riot on Kestrel 7, but Kael's mind remained fixated on the humans, their ferocity, their efficiency, and the unsettling calm they exuded in the face of overwhelming chaos. It had changed him in ways he couldn't fully understand. The more he observed Sergeant Bishop and his team, the more Kael began to see the fine line between humanity's brilliance and its capacity for brutality. He began to question everything he had believed about strength and power, about what it truly meant to survive and dominate in the universe. His transformation was subtle at first. At first, he mimicked their movements, quick, decisive, and devoid of hesitation. The slow, careful approach favored by his species was no longer enough to deal with the deadly inmates of Kestrel 7. Kael found himself gravitating toward human tactics, staying alert but calm, striking when necessary but never wasting effort. It was efficient and it felt right. One day, during a routine prisoner transport, Kael was put to the test. A particularly dangerous inmate, Gor Khan, a hulking being from the volcanic world of Kartuk, had somehow managed to escape his cell during the transfer. The brute had been shackled, but even that seemed insignificant against his sheer size and strength. Gor Khan, who had once defeated an entire squad of peacekeepers in his homeworld's brutal gladiatorial arenas, was enraged. His bellow echoed through the hallway, shaking the reinforced walls. The alien guards panicked, retreating, their weapons trembling in their hands. Kael stood frozen for a moment, just like they did. But then the lessons from Sergeant Bishop and the other humans rushed into his mind. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to remember the calm, focused presence the humans had during the riot. He reminded himself, fear doesn't win battles, strategy does. He scanned his surroundings, assessing the situation. Gorkhan was charging, fists raised to smash through the prison's reinforced walls. Kael noticed a weak spot, an exposed power conduit near the wall, surrounded by a few stray crates and debris. Kael didn't hesitate. He darted forward, using his forearms to leap over obstacles and close the distance quickly. He reached the conduit and ripped it from the wall, exposing a live wire. Gorkhan's roar grew louder as the prison alarms blared, but Kael's focus remained locked. He jammed the exposed conduit into the ground, sending an electrical surge through the damp metal floor. The power overload struck Gorkhan directly, his enormous body jerking violently from the electric shock. The Kartuk warrior dropped to his knees, stunned, then collapsed face first to the ground. Kael stood there, breathing heavily, but not panicked. His chest swelled with a strange sense of pride, not just for his success, but because for the first time, he truly understood the human mindset. Sergeant Bishop arrived moments later, looking unimpressed but nodding in approval as he surveyed the scene. "Not bad, rookie. You've got the right instincts now." Kael turned to him, feeling something new inside him. It was a quiet confidence, a certainty in his own capabilities that he had never experienced before. "It wasn't just instinct," Kael said slowly. "I thought about what you said, about control, and about taking the fight to them." Bishop raised an eyebrow. "You're finally getting it, huh?" He clapped Kael on the shoulder. "Good, because out here, that's all that matters. Control and the will to go further than anyone else." As Kael stared down at the unconscious Gorkhan, he realized the full extent of his transformation. No longer was he the unsure alien, fumbling through the chaos of Kestrel 7. He had become something else, someone who could face the dangers of this death world and not just survive but dominate. Kael wasn't just a guard anymore. He had learned what it meant to be a predator. And now he understood that humanity's greatest gift wasn't their survival instinct. It was their ability to transform themselves, to evolve into whatever the situation demanded. He looked up at Bishop, meeting his eyes. "I think I understand now," Kael said quietly. "It's not just about surviving this place. It's about controlling it." Bishop smiled, his sharp teeth glinting in the dim light of the hallway. Exactly. And once you control it, nothing can stop you." Kael nodded, the weight of his realization settling in. The Deathworlders in this prison weren't the only ones who had the capacity to survive. They were just the ones who had forgotten how to adapt. Humans, on the other hand, had never stopped evolving. And in a world full of monsters, it was that adaptability that made them the most dangerous of all. Kael stood tall, looking down at the defeated Gorkhan, and finally felt a sense of peace. He had become one of them, not just in body, but in spirit. He was no longer just a guard of Kestrel 7, he was a predator in his own right. And in this prison, that was the only thing that mattered. In the sci-fi HFY story The Reason Deathworlder Prison Guards Are Always Human, Kael Tharix, a newly recruited Yl'vathian prison guard, arrives at Kestrel 7, a notorious Deathworld prison for the galaxy's most dangerous Deathworlder inmates. He is struck by the humans' calm, confident demeanor in the face of overwhelming danger, especially when they single-handedly suppress a violent riot instigated by the prisoners. As the story unfolds, Kael learns that humans aren't just survivors, they are predators. Their strength isn't rooted in superior physical abilities, but in their unmatched intellect, ruthlessness, and strategic thinking. Through his interactions with Sergeant Bishop and his team, Kael comes to understand that humans thrive in chaos and control situations, with cold, calculated efficiency. And unlike other species, humans do not hesitate, they strike decisively and without mercy. In a pivotal moment, Kael faces an enraged Deathworlder prisoner, Ghor Khan, and applies the human approach, using his surroundings, intellect, and control, rather than brute force. This marks a turning point for Kael, as he grasps the core philosophy behind humanity's success: the ability to evolve and adapt beyond survival, embracing brutality when necessary. By the story's end, Kael has fully transformed, adopting the ruthless efficiency and predator-like mindset of the humans. He realizes that in this Deathworld prison, control is the true form of power, and humans' ability to dominate their environment and others makes them the most dangerous and effective enforcers in the galaxy.